It is a pleasure, however, to introduce Andrew Claremont with a longer presentation. But let's be real. The topic is certainly spicy enough that we could chat about this for hours on aligning the community to the customer journey. Okay. So, hey, Andy. Andy is the head of community at Glide, a no code development platform for business apps. Prior to Glide, Andy led global community ops at GoDaddy, and his early career was a mix of roles in IT, digital agencies, bootstrap startups, freelance web development. We've all been down this road of community hodgepodge, toss it to the Velcro wall, figuring it out as we go. Um, Andy, you have 15 years experience managing online communities, local user groups, tech conferences, and in-person workshops. Bless up to the in-person activity. Uh, and I have to share your real life as well. A self-avowed professional geek and amateur dad living in the greater Toronto area and often found road tripping or crossing the pond. I added that. I added that.
I
So
appreciate that.
I'm going to pass the on. It's all you, Andrew.
I appreciate it. Uh, yeah, I have the privilege of being one of those folks who started in community as a hobby early on, and then it just became a profession out of that. And from that experience over the years, I've sort of compiled this uh, litany of ideas and thoughts of how all these things tie together. So what follows is based on that. It's based on all of this experience, starting with the stuff that was a hobby, getting into doing things professionally, and kind of trying to compress it down into a framework. And that's what we're going to be covering in this session. Before we get into the actual framework, though, I did promise in the session description that there would be a little bit of a recap of a fundamental concept of customer lifecycle and customer journeys. So, uh, if you're not familiar with the customer life cycle, this is an idea, a model that is very common with marketing teams that gives you a rough approximation of the different stages that a customer will go through when they're starting to work with your business. And if you look this up online, you do a Google search for the term customer lifecycle, you're going to find a lot of different examples. This one is what I've become accustomed to over the years. And what I'd like to do now is kind of step through each one of these stages with you. So, starting off at the top, awareness is all about answering that question of who are you? If I've never heard your name before, I have no idea who you are, I'm not going to go any further with you as a business. It's that first touch, it's knowing that you exist and having a rough idea of what it is that you do. And this is what brand advertising is all about, right? It's just having that awareness, that recognition of this company does this thing. And that's about it. It's just that awareness. The next step after awareness is consideration. What do you do? What are the options? Do you have a solution or a service that can help me? And can I trust you? And this is where a lot of the work of marketing takes place. Just trying to make the case for why you should trust us, why you should use our services, why you should take the time to do business with us. And if that goes well, that next step, after a customer has looked over all of the options, taken a look at the solutions that you provide as a business, if everything goes well, you're going to step into conversion. This is the point that they're making that decision. Am I going to do business with you? How much is it going to cost? What are the reviews like? Do you offer refunds? What's the return policy? Are there guarantees? Why should I choose you? And do you have the evidence, the credibility to back it up? If that works and things go well, we go on to the next step of onboarding. Someone's signed up for your service, they've become a customer, they've become a user. That first impression when they're ready to get started, that's what this is all about. It's having access to those on-demand resources, the tutorials, the guides. It's the welcome wagon of knowing how to get started. And if they're able to successfully get started and start using your product or service, you want to keep them around, right? You want to keep them coming back. So we get into retention and expansion. Retention is fighting churn. It's making sure those customers that you've brought in stick around, right? It's the renewals. It's turning them from a monthly subscriber to an annual subscriber. It's getting them back in the door on a regular basis. And expansion is about increasing the amount of business that they do with you, getting them to upgrade. And let's say you're working with a SaaS company, getting them to do upgrades. If you're talking about selling digital products, it's the upsells, the cross sells. The decision that the customer has to make is, why should I keep using you? Why should I keep coming back? And if they do keep coming back again and again and again, we're starting to step into loyalty. Why would I prefer you as a customer? Why would I prefer you over all the other options that are out there? So now it's no longer just about continuing to do the things that I'm doing with you already. It's about you being that go-to solution, that default choice. I'm invested in your service, your product. You're the place that I always go to for these things. And if I ever have another need, I'm going to check with you first to see if you can help me. And in return for my loyalty as a customer, maybe I get some discounts, I get some other perks. This is what you're doing to keep me as a loyal customer. And for the most loyal customers, we get into advocacy. Those customer champions, the ones who love your business, love the service so much, they want to go and spread the good word. How are they going to tell others about your service, about your business? Refer a friend programs, affiliate programs, making things easy to share, those moments, making those moments easy to share. That's what advocacy is all about. It's about tapping into that network and that audience that your customers and users have. Now, why am I going over all of this marketing 101 stuff? Well, the core of it is that we need alignment between this thinking about business, about marketing, about sales, about getting customers in, keeping them coming back, getting the revenue. We have to think about these things even when we're in community, because we need that alignment between the programs that we run as community managers, as community professionals, and the rest of the business. One of the biggest challenges that we have as community managers and community leaders is a lack of resources. And we're not going to get more resources if we can't make the case for why we deserve it. And for us to make that case, we need to show how what we're doing as community professionals, as community managers, how our programs align to what the customer needs and what the business needs. So I mentioned in the session description also the customer journey. And there's a little bit of a difference between the customer lifecycle and the customer journey. So the customer lifecycle is that model, the multiple stages of the relationship between a customer and a business. The customer journey is a map of the specific steps that a customer is going to take when they're doing business with you. And that journey is going to be unique to your business. There'll be similarities to others, similarities to other businesses like yours, but every journey is unique. Now, there are tons of resources out there online about how to map out your customer journey. But in general, you can think about it in relation to that customer life cycle. Those 7 stages of the customer life cycle, those are the stages that the customer journey is going to go through. And this is going to be very, very important to this whole framework of how we align our community programs to support the customer journey. So, the Reach, Teach, Sell framework. And I like to use the air quotes when I talk about the framework because it's really more of just a helpful tool that I started developing back when I joined GoDaddy about 8, 9 years ago. And at that time, I had started in a very explicit community role. But then I moved over into content and I was working with our GoDaddy blog team. And I did that for a number of years. And then I started moving into more of an operations role. And I did that for a while. And then I ended up in community operations. And as I was going through all of these different stages uh, in my journey as a member of this team, interacting with all these different departments and groups, all these different stakeholders, and seeing all of the different objectives that they had and the things that they cared about, I started thinking about the work that I was doing and how our team, whether it be in community or content, how we could better align to those other needs. And that's where the framework came to life. I needed a way to think about how all these pieces came together. So let's dig in. So everything starts with reach. Reach is all about showing up where your potential members, your potential customers are already spending their time. I like to think of it as a little bit of field research, a little bit of advocacy, because what you're doing here is going out and being present. You can think of it as like surrounding yourself with the types of people that you want to reach, right? The little reference illustration here. The point here is that your community, the community that you lead, the members in your group, they're going to be coming from somewhere else, right? They're going to be coming from other communities. So, as a leader of your community, of your group, your program, if you start showing up and being present in these adjacent communities, in these adjacent groups, not only will you have a better understanding of that space and the things that those people care about, but you're also going out and raising some awareness of your community, your group. So when you're doing this, when you're showing up and being part of these other communities, you're not just doing it as a bystander, and you're not doing it to just try and get some advertising in there or marketing. You actually want to show up as a participant. You are in there as a member of those communities as well. So immerse yourself in it, lurk, absorb, participate, and contribute where it makes sense. Drop in replies when you actually have something meaningful to add. And it doesn't always have to be about your product or your community. Just look for ways to actually contribute to the conversation in these other groups. So what can you do right now? Go to YouTube, search by keyword, whatever topic is relevant to the community that you're trying to build. Search on YouTube, filter it down to channels, follow, subscribe those channels. Start getting them into your feed. Do the same thing on Reddit. Go to Reddit, search those topics and keywords, join those communities, join those subreddits. Start building up an actual feed of content and activity that is relevant to the community that you're trying to build and relevant to the members that you're trying to attract. Do the same thing on Instagram. Do the same thing on X, Threads, TikTok, whatever social channels are relevant for your members. Get in there, show up, live in it. This is the first step. So I've been doing this sort of thing for a long time. And I'm actually going through this process right now as we start thinking about how Glide can appeal to different types of communities, different types of users. And I want to have a better understanding of these other communities. So I am going out there and taking these exact steps to immerse myself in those spaces. So that's the first step. Reach, show up, participate, be present, be part of those communities, and be part of those communities in a meaningful way. Don't just be a flyby. Actually contribute. Another helpful thing that you can do too, communities like this one, led by community, and other communities for community professionals, reach out to other community managers and community leaders. If there are adjacent communities that have leaders in these spaces that we're already in as community professionals, reach out, introduce yourself, let them know that you're trying to get in with this new community, and you're trying to do it in a meaningful, constructive way. You're actually trying to contribute and participate. You're not just doing it as a flyby to chase sponsorships or anything like that. Like, you actually want to be a constructive member of those communities. Reach out to those other community leaders. See what sort of relationships you can build. Look for opportunities to collaborate. Which brings me to the next point in the framework, which is teach. It's building trust and credibility by sharing original insights, advice, and observations. And when we think about content marketing, usually the angle here is it's coming from your brand, it's coming from you, or it's coming from people on your team. The nice thing about community is that we have all of these amazing people in our groups, these people in our communities who have original insights, original advice, original observations. And what we can do as community leaders is curate. We can source all of what we need by talking to the people in our community and elevating their voices and their perspectives. Now, in this case, what we're trying to do is we are trying to create content. We are trying to put new resources together. And the way I think about it strategically is it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be content that someone is willing to subscribe to, or it's something that they're willing to search for. It's one of those two. What's that content going to be? It can be video, audio, written content. The specific execution is going to depend on the topics that you're covering, your audience, your members. But what you're doing here is that you want that call to action, the step that people take when they consume that content, to be something that establishes a connection with you and your community. So maybe that's you starting a YouTube channel for your community, and you're asking them to subscribe. Maybe it's following you on social. Your community has a social presence, and you're curating and elevating voices from your community through that social presence. Or maybe it's a newsletter. Maybe you're using Substack or Beehive or MailerLite or any of these other newsletter tools, and you're using that as a channel to curate content from your community, voices, and put it out as meaningful content assets. And through that, you're building that affinity, that trust and credibility with your community, and by halo effect with the business, with the brand, through this content. So what can you do right now, tactically? Start just by coming up with a list of topics that you want to cover. And then look to your community. Look at the members in your community, the expertise that exists there. And there are some really handy tools for that, by the way. Common Room is a great one. I use it a lot. We use it at Glide for really understanding who's in your community. Find those experts and tap into them. Reach out, ask for an interview, do an interview over or Google Meet or Zoom, record it. Maybe that becomes a video asset. Maybe it's just raw material for turning into written content. But try that just to start. Have those interviews, curate that content, curate those insights, that advice, those observations from your community. Package it all up in original content. Try to get a new piece of content out each week. Start there. Can you do a newsletter once a week just to start with? All right, next, the conversion, the sale. So selling, it's not really about the sale. It's about providing the context and providing the details to help potential customers make an informed decision. This is where we can really shine with our community programs. Because a lot of what sales needs, either whether it's self-serve sales where someone's just subscribing themselves, or they have to talk to a sales rep, either way we can help provide some of this material to support that sales process. FAQs, sourcing questions from the community, common questions, answering those questions in advance right there on a sales page. All those FAQs, source them from the community. Testimonials from your community members, your customers, reviews, soliciting reviews. We've done this at Glide with our community for G2 reviews. We ran a community challenge in the spring, challenging people to leave G2 reviews and then letting us know when they left a review, just as an incentive to start gathering a higher volume of bite-sized testimonials. A bit more involved, you can do case studies or even demos. I think demos are an underutilized opportunity, especially if you have a community for a SaaS product. Having customers, users do a show and tell of how they're actually using your product is a really big opportunity, because those things become self-serve demos of actual real-world use cases, or at the very least, people who aren't on the sales team or aren't on the marketing team putting together supporting assets. So that's what this is all about for this sell stage. It's tapping into resources from the community. Again, tapping into those wonderful people that are in your group and seeing how you can collaborate on resources to support the sales team. And I'll again say, start with the FAQs. If nothing else, what you can do right now, today, start compiling some FAQs for your sales team. All right. Now, this one should be very familiar to everybody who's watching this. Support. When you go back and look at how online communities, the role that we played over the years, and you look at any established, especially enterprise communities, you look at something like Microsoft Answers, so much of what we do is call shed ticket mitigation. We are the front line of customer support and customer service in the community. And I think that's wonderful, honestly. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think good old-fashioned forums, Q&A and forums is fantastic. I think that is the meat and potatoes, the foundation of how you build a business case around a community program. You start with that. That is defensive territory for us, because everything else that I'm talking about here Another team could do some version of it, right? What another team can't do is support at scale in the same way that a community program can. So forum Q&A is always going to be my first step for support. But that aside, the whole theme for this stage, it's about creating that amazing experience for new members and customers. Like that's what we want to aspire to. Is that when someone becomes a customer, they also become a community member. And thinking about, if we think about our communities at a larger scale, right? So we're not just thinking about the people who have created a profile on our support forum, but we're thinking about all of the customers of our business. Those are all potential community members. Maybe they just haven't created the profile yet. So if they are all community members, how can we make the community a resource, and the things that we do, the community program, a resource for them? Support forum, Q&A. But we don't need to stop there. We don't need to stop there. Things like cross-linking between support docs and the community. And we're working on improving this right now at Clyde, so that when someone is looking for an answer in our support documentation, if they can't find the answer there, there's a very clear one-click path to get to the community forum, so they can ask the question there, or at the very least, browse related questions tied to whatever documentation they were looking at. And it works in the reverse too. When folks are coming into the community, making it very easy to get over to documentation from the community platform. Now, some community platforms are fantastic at this because they have a very deep relationship. Some of them have a knowledge base capability, a docs capability, alongside your typical forum Q&A conversations. Others, you have to do a little bit more work. But that relationship between docs and community, and kind of help overall, is very, very important. And part of that is the escalation path. So if someone posts a question in the forum, you can't help them in the forum for one reason or another. Could be that the information is too sensitive. Having some sort of escalation path, automated, manual, whichever, so that issue can be passed on to the right people, and making that experience as painless as possible for your customers and community members. Backing off from the explicit support angle, I think about how your new customers, new users in your business, what that experience is like when they first sign up. Most cases, they're going to get some sort of email sequence, something welcoming them to the product, welcoming them to the service. Is community part of that? If not, that's an opportunity. Make community discovery an explicit step rather than an implicit step. Make that connection more obvious. Because one thing I've seen repeatedly is that somebody becomes a customer, they sign up, create an account, they'll get some sort of activation, confirmation, welcome email. And in many cases, there's no mention of community, or if there is a mention, it's buried. If we can make community more of a prominent focus or call out, even in something as simple as that activation email, that has a more explicit, it shows more explicit relationship between the community program and the business. We don't want community to be the shed out back where questions go when they can't be answered elsewhere. Community should be a core part of that customer experience. So what can you do right now, today? First thing I would do is that cross-linking between your community and your docs. get those things connected. If you can't get super granular and specific between like a certain category of article and a section of the community, that's fine. Just start building those connections between docs and the forum. Okay. Whew. Now onto the fun stuff. Okay, so let's talk about retention, retaining community members, retaining customers. This is giving your members a reason to return. Why should I come back to the community? If if I only think of the community as a place where I go to ask questions when I'm stuck, and the product is working so great, I have no reason to return. You are missing some opportunities there, both for the program and your own success metrics, but also for using the program and using the community to help achieve some other goals. Right? Talked about the customer journey, customer life cycle, retention and expansion. What's that all about? Making sure that customers don't churn, but also can we get them to upgrade? Can we get them to uh, do more with the product, do more with the service? So I think about retention in terms of the content that we create through our community program, the activities that we run with our members, and the events that we hold. Those are kind of like the three big buckets for retention, the retention playbook. And all of these things are going to be done with or for our community members. But the knock-on effect should have implications for the business, right? So when I'm thinking about the things that we're doing in our community program, it's not about just doing the things for the sake of doing it. It's, are we helping our community members learn more about our product? Are we helping them expand their skill set? Are we helping them level up and do more? And as I'm planning these things out, I have a very simple template that I use in an actual spreadsheet. I think about what can we do every year, some big annual event. What can we do every quarter, every season? And then what can we do monthly? What can we do weekly? And then within those buckets, what content is there? What activities? What events? Bringing all these things together, we start getting an action plan or a content calendar, activity calendar, whatever you want to call it. We have a game plan. And the whole game plan is based around how do we make sure our members keep coming back, they stay engaged, and through doing so, we're making an impact on the business because we're doing things with our members that have a correlation to things that we're trying to do in the product or with the service. So, what can you start doing right now? I would say tie this to the content idea, that teach, the curation. Once a month, once a week, can you go and put together a newsletter or a blog post, some digest? Start there. You're curating from the community. Something that I used to do at GoDaddy. For our blog newsletter, we started curating conversations from the community as well. And so we had a bi-weekly newsletter that would go out, highlights of recent articles published on the blog, but also trending discussions from the community. I think that's a really good starting point. All right. Moving on, reward. So reward is all about recognizing your community members for their milestones and achievements, right? You want to give them the shout outs, give them the recognition for their wins, but also the things that are like surprise and delight, right? Maybe there's some anniversary that's come up, holiday, maybe they've made a great contribution to the community. How are you going to recognize that? There's a great model that I've used a lot, and it comes from the world of gamification, uh, called SAPS, the SAPS model. And it stands for status, access, power, and stuff. Status is recognition. It's things that don't necessarily have a material value, but they have a very large implicit value for your members. Access is access to features, access to people, resources, things that are exclusive. Power is capabilities. Can you give members more power within the community or within your product? What things can they do that others can't? Something that we do at Glide for folks who become regular contributors to the community. They're very helpful. They answer questions from other users. We start introducing more moderation powers for them so they can do things like uh, edit posts, recategorize, tag things. And it helps them do what they like doing, which is going and providing peer support and showcasing their knowledge. But it also helps us because now we're expanding the moderation capabilities, or sorry, capacity of our team. So instead of it just being like a handful of us that are able to do some administrative work, now we have these amazing contributors who are doing the same thing. And then stuff, stuff is the material, account credits, brand merch, other goodies. And I should have put a better visualization here, but what you'll find is that as you are trying to appeal to more people, more members of the community and beyond, stuff is pretty good. People like to get stuff. But as they become more loyal to the community, to the brand, uh, the value of the stuff, aside from maybe like some rare brand merch, the value of the stuff, the material goods, isn't as great as some of these other perks. So, what can you do right now? Honestly, I would start brainstorming. What can you do for each one of these categories with your business right now? What rewards can you offer for community contributions, community challenges? And yeah, you can start with the basics of like brand merch and gift cards and things like that. But really start thinking about what additional capabilities can we give them in the community? What capabilities can we give them in the product? What special access can we give them? Look for that again. We're looking for that correlation between things happening in the program, in the community program, and things that matter to the business. All right. I know that there's a lot. Don't worry. We're coming up to the end here. So, last, refer. So, talking about those network effects. How do you turn someone into an advocate? Well, we want to tap into our members' networks at this step. And if we think about some of these other parts of the framework, the content that we create together, the activities, these things that we're doing together, if we can make public participation part of that, so that when someone's participating in, let's say, a community challenge, or we bring them in to do a case study or an interview, we're featuring them in a blog post or in the newsletter. If we're giving them the recognition in public or inviting them to participate in these activities in public, we're getting a network effect as a byproduct of that. If they're sharing things on social, for example. One recent thing that we did was the Glide certification. So we just launched a certification program for Glide to test people's knowledge of building apps in Glide. And we ran a community challenge through the month of October in parallel with that. And the challenge was to get certified, publish your certification on LinkedIn, and then tag us. And that would enter them into the challenge. And then at the end of the month, we went through and pulled in all the entries and then chose our winners. So in that, we had an activity that was explicitly tied to business impact and tied to the product because we're challenging people to get certified. which means they have to learn more about the product and prove that they have that knowledge. We're rewarding them through the recognition, through the account credit and other goodies that we're giving the winners. And then we're getting this sort of referral network effect because now they're sharing Glide on their social channels. And it was all just, a byproduct of the challenge being a public participation. Another thing you can do is making things more shareable. So if you're doing case studies, testimonials, interviews with these folks, just making that content really, really easy for them to share out. After you do an interview with someone and put that interview on your company blog, follow up with that community member. Let them know, hey, your story is live. Here's the link. If you want to share it out, here's a snippet you can share. Just reduce the friction, make it easier for them to spread the word. You can also get a little bit more formal. You can do an affiliate program. You do things with referral platforms. There are services, tools like Referral Hero that work for this, where you could tie in those platforms with the community or tied in with the product and then run these referral challenges as part of your community program. Those take a little bit more heavy lifting, though, and a bit more dev involvement. So what I would recommend to start with is look at what you can do around public participation. How can you start collaborating with your community members and doing things in public, producing content, doing events, holding activities in a public way where others will take note? And in particular, those members, their networks, them finding out about you, your community, your business through those personal relationships. All right. So I've mentioned a few of the things that we're doing at Glide, and I wanted to throw a slide in here near the end, kind of recapping all of the stuff that we've been doing over the past year. So I joined Glide as an ecosystem advocate last summer, and then took on the community program at the start of the year. So here's a quick highlight reel of some things that we're doing. We've been doing more events. This here is a snapshot of a workshop that our CEO, co-founder, led at No Code Summit in Paris in October. Packed room. We're doing a demo of Glide, showing people how to use it, and we're talking about AI in no code. So we're doing more of that. We're doing these more of these in-person experiences where we're showing up in community events and participating, not just sponsoring or doing sales pitches and all that. Like we're showing up and trying to actually teach things. We recently redesigned the Glide blog and renamed it the column. And we're doing more now around bringing in original perspectives, more editorial content, and more of that elevation of voices from the Glide community. We have a lot of really, really brilliant people using Glide. We want to tap into their insights and perspectives and amplify that. Near the start of the year, we overhauled our customer stories, doing more with video and interviews. And a good chunk of those customers are very active community members. And it was the community, it was through the community that we identified these folks and brought them in. And kind of an interesting side note for that is we continue to do more with them. Maybe started with a customer story and we just kept pulling on that thread. Hey, we did a customer story. What if we did something else together? Maybe we do a live stream workshop or something, or we bring them out to an event. So we don't leave it as just like one interaction. It's how can we continue to do more collaboration with our really engaged community members? The good old classic, we have the Glide Community Forum running on Discourse. This is a very active forum. We have a very active core group of contributors. This is, to me, like the heart of the community. And we're doing more around curation within the community and connecting the community platform to our docs and our help center. We've also been doing a lot of live streams on YouTube. So again, going back to that content, how do we show up in other places? How do we create a presence that people can follow? We've been doing that through live streams. We've been doing our community live streams rather than in like a gated webinar platform. We've been doing it live in public on YouTube. And then we use Luma registration for community members, inviting them to come and RSVP. But the actual go live is on YouTube. So even if you don't RSVP, if you follow the channel, you're going to get an alert that we're going live with a new live stream. And then we actually do have like a partner program and Glide Experts. These are developers who build Glide apps for others, and it's a free program to join. So community members, if they really like building stuff in Glide, we invite them to join the Experts program. And the membership there, this is basically, I see it, this is like a VIP group within our community, ranges from freelancers and contributors, like part-time contributors to full agencies. All of these things don't fall under the community program, but the community program ties into all of these things. Which brings me to the closing thoughts as we wrap up here. First off, understand the customer journey for your business. I talked about the customer lifecycle and all of those stages. Go a little bit deeper. Start thinking about what an actual customer goes through when they're interacting with your business. What does that look like? And then once you figure that out, align your community program to it. Reach, teach, sell, support, retain, reward, refer. Bring it back to reach. Align this against that customer journey that is unique to your business. And last but not least, accept that the work will never end. As I mentioned, the community program doesn't run all of those things, but there are a lot of strong internal relationships and a lot of collaboration and joining forces that happens to make this work. Marketing, sales, product support, all of these relationships internally are very, very important. We need to build those relationships as community leaders and protect them and nurture them in order for us to keep them happy and in turn prove our impact on the business. So, final word, there's a lot here, but don't worry, you got this. We're here for you in the Led By community and in all of the other community professional communities out there. Good luck. Thank you for the time. And if you want to give me a shout, you can find me on LinkedIn, Andy MCI. Come say hi. I share drawings like this now. Apparently, this is a thing that I do. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
You were really able to take over that. I mean, I am impressed at your ability to accordion style the talk. So you gave us a ton of impactful knowledge. Thank you so much for that. But thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in the airwaves.
Likewise. See you guys on the internet.